Hello, greetings from Washington, D.C. I'm shooting this video in lieu of my participation in the workshop on observations for adaptation to climate variability and change that's being held this week in Germany. My name is Fernando Miralles-Wilhelm. I'm a lead specialist with the Inter-American Development Bank. Try to shoot this video, keep it very short, less than 10 minutes. I hope this is informative and is useful for the workshop, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Hello, this is the presentation I would have made at the workshop. It's the observations for adaptation perspectives from a hydrologist working at a multilateral development bank. Again, my name is Fernando Miralles-Wilhelm. I'm with the Water and Sanitation Division at the IDB. Little cartoon just to show that really the bank's thinking of adaptation not as something that's going to happen, needs to happen years from now. It's something that needs to be happening today. Hope you enjoy the cartoon. Let me tell you a little bit about the IDB. It's the Regional Development Bank for Latin America and the Caribbean. It has 48 member countries, 26 of which are what we call borrowing members, and 22 that are non-borrowing. All the borrowing members are within the Latin American and Caribbean region. The bank does about 10, maybe 11 billion US dollars in lending per year, and about 40% of that portfolio is in water and water-related projects, which are very much tied to adaptation and adaptation needs. And the bank's got the improving quality of life as a strategic theme overall. Issues that have to do with not only water and climate change, but also biodiversity, poverty, education, and health. Little cartoon again. The IDB is not really waiting for things to happen. We're trying to act on adaptation specifically, which is very much the topic of this workshop. And we unveiled in the middle of last year a four-year strategy for water resources and adaptation in Latin America and the Caribbean specifically. And the strategy's got three main points of action. One of it is dialogue, just enabling dialogue and just to open and strengthen communication channels, which we have found is key to enable action. Also investing in knowledge and capacity building, not only for the bank as an institution, but also with our clients in the region. And then moving to specific applications. The bank and these, I think multilateral development banks in general are very driven towards adaptations, activities, applications on the ground, and implementation. I'll talk to you very briefly about what we've done to date. We've engaged in a regional policy dialogue. This is part of our dialogue item in the strategy. We've unveiled a hydrology and climate system for Latin America and the Caribbean, which I'll talk to you in a second. We've also developed an inventory of water and adaptation actions in the Americas. And looking more downstream at specific case studies of adaptation, which is focused on building experience and improving, activities on the ground. The Regional Policy Dialogue is a program we launched 3 years ago. We basically gather different stakeholders in meetings, not unlike this one, and we talk about adaptation at different levels. We've done this at the more the scientific and technical level, to more on the decision-making level, and also at the government and institutional level, trying to enable people to come together and generate consensus. Dialogue is a very useful mechanism to generate consensus around needs and around action areas. And each year we publish a series of documents like the ones I'm showing you here on the screen, on essentially the outcomes of these meetings, which tend to point towards directions of future bank action. So I think it's very useful, sort of laying, putting together an agenda for change. Let me talk to you a little bit about the hydrology and climate system for Latin America and the Caribbean. It's essentially a hydrologic model for the entire LAC region that contains the location, connectivity, and direction of flow for all surface water bodies in Latin America and the Caribbean. It's got about 230,000 basins delineated through the region. It's coded in Java. It's a web-based application, so it can be run on pretty much any computer with any operating system. In terms of climate data needs specifically, it really requires rainfall and temperature at what I call management levels of space-time resolution. And the system is completely open source. Okay, so it's going to be it's already been launched. It's being distributed, and it's available for download and for running anytime. The inventory of water adaptation actions in the Americas. It's essentially like the name indicates. It's a compilation of activities, specific activities in the Americas, particularly in Latin America and the Caribbean, on adaptation actions, for which we gather specific information in terms of not only the description of the project, but also the key characteristics, and part of this is it picks up climate information that might be available at specific locations throughout the region. So we're doing this as a mechanism to get information as well as make it available for everybody else. In terms of activities on the ground, we've launched a series of adaptation case studies, and the objective is really to develop experiences and lessons learned to try to understand what can be done. We have focused on type problems in the region, anything from floods to droughts to glacier melting to sea level rise, which are spread throughout the LAC region. The product of these projects is the identification of adaptation projects and maybe some engineering conceptual designs, and we have a few in execution. I want to tell you very briefly about a couple of them. Argentina in 2011 lost nearly 3 points of their GDP for soybean agricultural losses due to a drought that the Argentinian Met community and their service knew was coming, because this was El Nino, knew it was coming months in advance, yet there was an inability to act by the agricultural community. This is the kind of thing we're interested in bridging from not only data to actual decision making and action on the ground. So that's one study. Second study is the infamous drought in Mexico during 11 and 12, what was called the 70-70 drought, the worst drought in 70 years that affected 70% of the country. It had massive losses particularly in livestock and also in agricultural losses, but also required tremendous funds of injecting funds in emergency aid. Again, this was a drought that was seen coming months in advance, yet the community was unable to act. So one of the items that I'll pose forward to this workshop is that bridging of observations and the ability to make decisions. So my takeaway messages, and I'm closing here, is that banks, first of all, is fully committed to serve our clients in pursuing water projects that are climate adapted. Okay, I think the second key message for you to take away is that our strategy embodies an end-to-end approach from raising awareness on the dialogue side at all levels to supporting data and information generation, to development of tools, to infrastructure planning and design, and mainstreaming adaptation into water operations that we can finance. So we're looking at really an end-to-end approach. So as an institution, we're really interested in improving observations as part of this development ecosystem, catalyzing the process by which observations are used in decision-making, management, and development investments. So that's pretty much my message, and I hope this generates useful discussion, and I'm always available to answer any questions, and you have a way to contact me. Okay, so I'll leave it at that, and thanks for your attention for these few minutes.